Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
The rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
We are getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Silent hands through the ages, guarding light in secret places, betrayed, broken, torn apart. Still the vow burns in the heart. Hidden voices, quiet prayer, seats still waiting there. In the shadows, time stood still, but the mission holds it always will. Nothing can stop what is coming. The fire, the thunder, the drumming. It's gonna be biblical, the final hour. Truth revealed in holy power. They were called. Fathers, mothers gave their all. Wives and warriors, sons of flame, bearing witness in God's name. Quiet strength behind the veil, standing strong when others failed, waiting for the trumpet's cry. The army rises side by side. Nothing can stop what is coming. The fire, the thunder, the drumming. It's gonna be biblical, the final hour. Truth revealed in holy power. Through the storm, the veil will tear.
All right, we're going to end it right there. We got to get going. We got a lot of things to do, and I just screwed all that up. But I hope everybody is doing great tonight. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. And, you know, it's interesting. I say that every episode, but it is. It's really interesting to watch how all this unfolds because we are in that time frame right now. We are in that time frame of the October surprise, of Red October, of coming into the ultimate Q Delta on October 28th from 2017, the current date. I think there's going to be something that's going to happen there. But I honestly believe nothing can stop what's coming. And we're getting indications of this more and more every day. And the references towards the boards and towards Q keep on happening over and over and over again. And we're going to look at some of those tonight. We're going to go over some news, some international developments in the context of what's going on, Russia, Ukraine, the U.S., and China, and Venezuela, and what's happening in those theaters, what's happening in the United States, because it's all interrelated, intercorrelated, and you know that because you watch this show. But hope everybody is doing well out there. Now, just kind of looking, DEF CON Zero tonight. Is that show on Badlands Media with those two funny figures that always go over the cue boards. We will be doing that tonight at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please join us on over there on Badlands Media. You can just search Badlands Media either on X or you can find it on YouTube as well as the primary place, Rumble. With that, I just actually sent out an email on November 6th to November 9th. I will be in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and I will be attending the Great American Restoration Tour, the 10th one. I think it was at like the 3rd or the 4th one. It was in Chandler, Arizona. That was a while back, a few years ago. But this is the 10th one. A list of the attendees that are going to be there as speakers. We have John Harold, Chris Paul, Burning Bright, Zach Payne, G Money, Jordan Sather, CanCon, Alpha Warrior. We have Ash in America, JB White, Cam Kuski, myself, and Ghost of Based Patrick Henry. So if you guys want to go check that out, you can go out there. And the link is on my social media. So it's on my, I've already posted it on Facebook, Telegram, Social Red Pill, True Social. It'll be posted on X later tonight. I just didn't have time to get that one out there. But you can just go to badlandsmedia.tv and then go to the event section and you can find information there. So if you are in Cocoa Beach, Florida, or you're going to attend this event, I hope to see you there. I will be active all of those days at the event and looking forward to meeting a lot of you out there. So that's going to be pretty darn cool. Today, Donald Trump giving remarks. He said something I found it interesting, even though he was laughing when he said it. But you got to pay attention to what this man says. Listen to this.
No, you can't. It's going to be tough to beat, Mr. Senator. It's going to be, John. It's going to be very tough to beat Washington and Lincoln, but we're going to give it a try, right? Hey, they didn't put out 8 wars, 9 coming. All right, we put out 8 wars, and the 9th is coming. Believe it or not.
And the 9th is coming. Believe it or not. Now that's interesting. So 8 and 9 is 17, right? And the way he said that so nonchalantly, that wasn't a saying it in the context like, well, we got to get prepared. War is coming. In the context of Russia or China, I think that the indication he was giving there was the war on the deep state, the war that take down these criminals. This is why the National Guard's getting activated. This is why we have troop movements around the country. This is why he has Presidential Emergency Active Directive sitting on his desk, the Insurrection Act sitting on his desk. That's the war that he's talking about here. Now, do we have an indicator of this? Well, if you go to the boards and thank Gary Warnick, Knights of Camelot, who follows us on X. I saw this and you know what? I didn't have time to post it. But I appreciate him for pointing this out on my post and putting this out there. And so give Gary a good follow over there, Knights of Camelot. And right there, Knights of Camelot. Thank you so much for that, Gary. But he posted marker 9. I mean, great indication right here. The first indictment unseal will trigger a mass population awakening. The first arrest will verify action and confirm future direction. They will fight, but you are ready. Marker 9. Trump signifying that the 9th is coming. A war is coming. And we actually had other comms today that actually point towards this, which is kind of interesting from somebody else. I said a few weeks ago, you got to watch between Trump and Flynn because there's coordinated communications going on between these two gentlemen and the things they're saying and the timestamps that they're posting. And we'll look at one from Flynn here in a minute. But the first indictment, unseal, will trigger a mass population awakening. Okay, that was obviously James Comey. The first arrest will verify action and confirm future direction. John Bolton, right? Or whoever is going to be the first perp walk. I think that's coming. I think it's going to be John Brennan. My thoughts. They will fight, but you are ready. Well, what does that mean? It means that they are going to fight back, that things are going to occur. This is going to be a firestorm type of situation of which is going to arise. We have to see that. We have to understand that. Oh no, my posts are, my posts are loading. My posts aren't loading. So Trump in the same conversation today, listen to this one.
The tariff again last week, as you know, they found $31 billion. They came to see me, sir. We found $31 billion. They said, we don't know why. I said, was this a good find or a bad find? It was a good find. It was a plus 31. We're used to finding negative 31s, right, for the last 30 years. I said, check the tariff shelf. Well, those tariffs haven't kicked in. Yes, they did. They kicked in 2 months ago. Check it. He comes back 2 hours later. Sir, you were right. We have an additional $31 billion, billion, not million, Lindsay, billion, that we just found from tariffs. They kicked in earlier than we thought. You were right.
31 billion. Now, this is interesting because this comes like moments after he's asked questions about Russia and why, hey, is the meeting still going on in Budapest? And he reiterates 31. Post 31, November 1st, right here. World stalemate. We have the goods on everyone. That's part of the reason why some things that tie back to foreign heads of state will remain classified, not all. We are in one of the most critical times of our country. Trump and others are working to balance we are doing well for America, for the common person to endorse, while at the same time purify our government and remove the bad actors who are entrenched. There is so much string pulling and blackmail that we need to cut these off to truly gain the power granted to us by patriots and the hardworking people to get this people of this great country. Now, is that contextual reference? Not really, but the day actually signifies this timestamp in context of world stalemate. And the reason why world stalemate actually matters is because of something else that General Flynn said earlier today. And I'm going to get into that one. Actually, you know what? I'm going to bring up General Flynn's. I actually had it further on down the road, but I want to go into it right now because there we go. We're going to pull this one over here. Okay. We're going to pull that one over here. We're going to pull this over here. Tons of windows open. We're going to go to General Flynn because it has contextual reference frame to what Trump is saying. So, General Michael Flynn, attention, subject, General Flynn's rules for diplomacy and how to avoid nuclear war. Big capital letters on nuclear war. Rule number 1, the U.S. should not lie. Rule number 2, the U.S. should not break its word. Rule number 3, the U.S. should not insult, demean, ridicule, or threaten. Rule number 4, the U.S. should never support assassinations. Rule number 5, the U.S. should never call for regime change. Rule number 6, the U.S. should always be willing to negotiate. Rule number 7, the U.S. should view this dispute from the other nation's perspective. Rule number 8, the U.S. should never back a nuclear power into a corner. Huge right there. Rule number 9, we should never assume that only the U.S. wants peace. Rule number 10, the U.S. should never steal. Okay. Our nation has seen endless wars for decades, but those wars have always been over there. A nuclear war would not be like that. As President Kennedy explained. Now, I want you to see this. War in kill brackets. He did that on purpose. War in kill brackets makes no sense in the age when the deadly poisons produced by a nuclear exchange would be carried by wind and water and soil and sea to the far corners of the globe and to generations yet unborn. It is time for our leaders to control their emotions. It is time to guard our tongues. It is time to show respect to our adversaries as well as our friends. If we behave with respect, perhaps then we could find a way forward in order to achieve peace with our adversaries. Otherwise, pray. As in Timothy 2:2, for kings and for all that are in authority, that way we may lead a quiet and peaceful life in the godliness and honesty. Then he says, see article below, Secretary Rubio, thanks for standing strong in the diplomatic breach. And then he mentions the original Budapest Accords. From the original Budapest Accords to now so many violations by the West of the above rules, peace requires truth, mutual respect for nationality and sovereignty, and a long-term vision for an equal diplomatic and political footing on the world stage. Now, what is he talking about? See the article below. It's not really an article.
President and Russian president in the not too distant future between the president and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Budapest is not going to happen, nor will the meeting that was supposed to be either tomorrow or Thursday between Secretary of State Rubio and Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Apparently, the two of them, that's Rubio and Lavrov, had a phone conversation today. It was said to be a, quote, productive call, therefore not necessitating the need for further in-person meetings. Not quite sure what to read into that, because it was supposed to be the in-person meetings that really kind of forged a path toward potentially the end of the war in Ukraine. So we'll have to find out.
Okay. Now, this is where it kind of gets interesting when you go back to Flynn's post. I broke this down. Flynn's warning on avoiding nuclear war. It was announced today that Trump and Putin will not meet in Budapest. All right? A symbolic city where the 1994 Budapest Memorandum once promised peace, sovereignty, and honesty between nations. General Michael Flynn responded with a reminder, peace requires truth, respect, and restraint. He laid out the 10 rules for diplomacy: simple, moral, and strategic. Don't lie, don't break your word, don't assassinate, don't push regime change, always negotiate, never corner a nuclear power. Yet for decades, the West has done just that. Lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, broke post-Cold War promises to Russia, mocked and threatened rivals, assassinated foreign generals, toppled governments from Libya to Ukraine. Flynn's message is to cut through the noise. If America wants peace, it must rediscover truth over propaganda, diplomacy over dominance, and humility over hubris. Because backing nuclear powers in the corners isn't strategy, it's mutually assured destruction. Now, when you go back to Flynn's post, there's two parts here that I want you to look at. War and kill brackets. And Flynn likes to use Bible posts as Q references. So we go back into here. We go to Q22. Who controls the National Guard? Why was the National Guard recently activated in select cities within the United States? Legitimate, actually happening. Can the National Guard work in coordination with the Marines? Yep. Does conditions need to be satisfied to authorize? Yep. What former president used the military to save the republic and what occurred exactly? That's Lincoln. You go back to that Trump video where he was talking 31-31. Right before that, 8 and 9, 17. He talked about Lincoln and Washington. Biggest drop to be ever provided in the poll. Study and prepare. The masses tend to panic in such situations. Then he says right here, no war. Remember, kill brackets. Not war. No war. No civil unrest, clean and swift. I think what we are witnessing is globally constructed chaos, right? So you want to think about it like this. We have what we consider to be the sovereign alliance, right? That these world leaders back in 2018, they made commitments to each other. They agreed to world peace and that they had to go through the motions. I think that a lot of Putin is really behind all of this. Now, does Putin want peace? Absolutely he does. Does he know that Zelensky is not going to give up footing? He absolutely knows that Zelensky is not going to give up footing. There's a lot of things that are happening right now in Ukraine and actually, there's a lot of things happening right now between Ukraine and Russia that are massive. That number one is that nothing Trump does or says is going to do anything. We had Zelensky come to the White House the other day, and Trump basically told him, I don't give a fuck what you think. You're going to go out there and make a deal with Putin. And Zelensky basically said, not happening. give me missiles. In other words, Zelensky is not going to give up any concessions. He's not going to give up the Donbass, which Russia actually is saying this is kind of a cultural and different perspective. So, interview with Colonel McGregor, canceling the Budapest Trump-Putin meeting was actually the right decision. And it's a 3-minute and 43-second clip with Mario Nofwal. And just listen to just some of this here. Because I think Colonel McGregor is actually spot on.
You know, we were planning to talk about one thing when we organized this interview, and then something happened in the last 2 hours. So it just keeps changing. Let's kind of give a recap for the audience. I'll let you fill the gaps as well. So essentially, Trump and Zelensky were, set to meet. Trump had a call with Putin. And there's been reports that Putin made an offer to Trump. Now, these are reports. I think it was by the Washington Post, according to 2 sources. And that offer included Ukraine giving up the Donbass, which is mainly Donetsk, 25% of Donetsk that Ukraine still controls. And Russia either freezes the lines in Zaporizhia and Kherson, the other 2 oblasts, or gives up some territory. Other reports say Russia is willing to give up some territory. We don't know how much. So that was allegedly the offer that was made by Putin to Trump. Then Trump went to Zelensky, and apparently there was a shouting match. I'm not sure how accurate there it is. It's according to other sources, European sources. And essentially Trump was trying to get Zelensky to accept the deal, and he even said the words, allegedly said the words, and I'm sick of seeing the front line. Zelensky's position is he prefers a ceasefire and freezing the current front line, which works in Ukraine's advantage considering that Russia is advancing. And then today, there was a call between Rubio and Lavrov, Foreign Minister Lavrov. And again, allegedly the call did not go too well. Lavrov again referenced the root causes that Putin always talks about, which is a demilitarization of Ukraine, no NATO, recognition of Donbass, but essentially there was no middle ground. And about an hour or 2 ago, apparently the White House said the meeting between Putin and Trump has been canceled, and the meeting between Lavrov and Rubio. Your thoughts?
Well, I think it's probably a good thing that the meeting is not going to be held. If you're going to negotiate over something, both sides have to agree to a set of facts, and that has never happened. The West has insisted on its own set of facts, which are rooted in deep-seated hostility to Russia, and Russia has a different set of facts and is the injured party in Moscow's view, and whose legitimate national security interests have been rejected. So under the circumstances, unless you're willing to visit the core issues, unless you're willing to admit that this war did not begin simply because Vladimir Putin woke up in the middle of the night and decided, oh, I think I'll invade Ukraine, and you go to the core issues, what brought about this war and why Russia wants Ukraine to be neutral, which it sees as absolutely vital to its national security, and I don't think you're going to get very far. And so it's probably better, at least for the moment, that no such meeting occur. There's always the danger if you go into a meeting where you don't agree on the very basic facts of the event, then you could actually make matters worse and end up leaving the meeting with a higher probability of confrontation than you did when you entered.
So Colonel McGregor is spot on right here. And basically what he's saying, when they say the West, it's not necessarily Trump. Trump understands Putin. He understands Russia. He understands what they're saying. The West is the EU. It is Europe. It is the UK. It is Britain, who are progressing this war further. It is NATO. And by NATO, you have to understand that we end this war, there's nothing left for the military-industrial complex. I mean, maybe Venezuela. So when we start to understand that Putin has been incredibly resilient with Ukraine and the Russia war over the past few years, waiting for Trump to come back in, waiting for a negotiation, waiting for peace. If Putin wanted to, he could absolutely annihilate Kyiv, Zelensky overnight. It could easily happen. One of the biggest reasons why he doesn't do it is he knows that there will be strict retaliation by NATO. Now, is he getting to the point where he doesn't care? Yeah, I think he is. And I think that this is what Donald Trump's doing is he's giving Zelensky the ultimatum. Listen, take this deal or not. And Zelensky basically said, no, I'm not taking the deal. And he goes, well, the negotiations in Budapest are off. And good luck, Zelensky. And what we're getting told with the Lavrov meeting today is that it's not that it didn't go well. It's just like there's nothing to talk about. Russia, you can go out and handle this, do your business, do what you need to do. Zelensky's not listening to us. He wants missiles. We're not going to give them to him. But we'll see what Europe ends up doing. And so it's a very fragile situation. I don't think Putin is rash enough to produce an all-out war with NATO. Russia can't handle that. It can't afford that. Militarily, it cannot fight that engaged war. NATO knows this. This is why NATO is progressive against Russia through Ukraine proxy. Zelensky knows this. Zelensky understands that if he had NATO components in this war, he would absolutely run over Russia. But Russia is appearing weak when actually really, really strong, and they have some really big backers. So what's happening now is a non-escalation period of time. They're giving Zelensky time to think about this, which he's not going to give concessions. I think Russia is going to strike deep in Kiev over the next few days. I think they potentially even try to take out Zelensky because he is the one holding everything up. The people in Ukraine want peace. The people in Russia want peace. Russia just wants the Donbass back. Why? Rare earth minerals, metals, massive amounts of energy, oil and gas. It's oligarchical for them. It's all about resource allocation is what it comes down to. But on the global stage, it doesn't really change anything between Russia and the United States. Everything is still moving forth the way that it's supposed to move forth, at least from the context I understand. But there is one big hiccup in all of this, and that's China. I will talk about that here in a little bit when we get to the China part. So Trump was asked earlier today, reporters said the meeting with Putin is canceled or put on hold. Trump says, nope, I don't want to have a wasted meeting. I don't want to have a waste of time. So I'll see what happens. And this is what I'm saying. This is kind of a mitigation period between Putin and Zelensky to see what happens, to see if Zelensky comes back with a counter, to see if Putin, actually shifts and moves, which he's not going to. Putin has the ability to prolong this war for 10 more years if he wants to. Russia is not overstretched at all. If there was maximum NATO engagement, they would be. But I think over the next week or so, we're going to see major attacks by Russia into Ukraine, or potentially Ukraine into Russia, which is going to escalate this beyond those points, and potentially even false flags from the European Union, NATO, into Russia into Ukraine being blamed on Russia, because they want to escalate this as fast as possible. That goes back to General Flynn's post about the warnings of nuclear war. When he's talking about the West, he's really talking about Europe. I mean, Trump is cool, concise. He's cool and collected. He's not going to instigate war with Putin. He doesn't want war with Putin. He's ended 8 wars. He's definitely not going to go out there and instigate another one specifically with Russia. I think the 9th war that he is talking about is with the deep state. It is marker 9. But there is another variable on the play right now, and that is China. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. We're going to switch tunes real quick. We're going to get off the global stage. Remember, I had these mixed up, so I had a lot of that Flynn stuff towards the end of the show. But we're going to flip it up, and I'm going to go into kind of some national news, is what is happening right now today in our country. Number one thing I actually want to bring out there, just real quick, that song at the beginning, the song in the intro, you can now find that on iTunes, on Amazon Music, on Google Music, YouTube Music. Just search Guardians of Truth. You can also just find it at redpillsmusic.com, redpillsmusic.com, if you guys like that music right there that you're listening to earlier. Let me go in here. I want to pull this guy over here. Oh, no. My computer's freaking out. Uh-oh. Okay, give me a second. Some shit is freaking out. Sometimes okay, there it is. Okay. Sometimes our computers just don't work the way that they're supposed to work. All right, let me see what we got here. All right, we're going to give this just a little bit longer. The buffering. So let's jump into this real quick. I wanted to kind of do some space and builds, do some ads, but we'll wait a little bit for that. I want to get into this. I've been saying that the second indictment was going to be John Brennan. It was John Bolton. That's fine. I think that John Brennan is coming next. This could potentially be the biggest perp walk that we see. Going back to that post that we are just looking at, marker number 9. Brennan criminal referral is sent to the DOJ. This came about from the Jim Jordan over at in Congress, a committee, the Judiciary Committee. And so they are writing to refer significant evidence that former Director of Central Intelligence John Brennan knowingly made false statements during his transcribed interview to the Committee on Judiciary on May 11th, 2023. While testifying, Brennan made numerous willfully, intentionally false statements of material fact contradicted by the record established by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and the CIA. Under 18 U.S.C. 1001, a witness commits a crime if he knowingly, and willfully makes any materially false statement or representation with respect to any investigation or review conducted pursuant to the authority of the committee of the Congress. Congress cannot perform an oversight function if witnesses who appear before committees do not provide truthful testimony. Making false statements before Congress is a crime that undermines the integrity of the committee's constitutional duty to conduct oversight. This points below support an investigation into whether Brennan made false statements at his transcribed interview. And the charge is Brennan falsely denied that the CIA relied on the discredited Steele dossier in drafting the post-election intelligence community assessment. Now, this is actually going to be pretty huge because it's going to the DOJ as perjury. But this is not how the DOJ is actually going to look at it. The DOJ is going to go in and they're going to look at the 2016 Intelligence Community Assessment, ICA, which actually has whistleblower backing that has been released by DNI Tulsi Gabbard. Now, the whistleblower backing basically comes out and says this is an abrupt lie. It's all made up, that they use CrowdStrike to actually hack into U.S. election systems that mimic Russian IP addresses. You got to remember the context of all of this. You know, this goes back to Lenny Bernardo and the email with the Clinton campaign setting it all up from the Soros Open Societies Foundations on June 26th. This is where all this stems from. So the 2016 ICA, Intelligence Community Assessment, was meant to implant that evidence of Russian collusion. And the backing of that was Annex A. Annex A was the Steele dossier. Now, Brennan was asked, was the Steele dossier the primary source material utilized to bring about the 2016 ICA? And he said, no, it wasn't. But we know from the ICA that it was Appendix A, which was the Steele dossier. So this is going to get really interesting because this can open up the can of worms. This could actually be the case that cracks it all open at the DOJ with FISAgate. Most likely just going to be handed off to grand juries that are probably already active in Florida. Now, going back to John Bolton. So October 16th, 2025, federal indictment in the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland accuses John Bolton of mishandling classified information during and after his role as National Security Advisor. It shows he used personal accounts to send classified information to unauthorized relatives, leading to the national security risk and including a 2021 hack by an Iranian actor. Bolton retained printed and digital copies of his Maryland home post-tenure, despite no authorization. The indictment charges Bolton with 8 counts of transmitting national defense information and 10 counts of unlawful retention. Bolton sent over 1,000 pages across at least 8 transmissions from 2018 to 2019, 7 during his tenure as National Security Advisor and 1 shortly after, often transcribing handwritten notes into digital documents before sharing. Bolton's primary sent diary-like entries detailing the daily activities as National Security Advisor, which included classified information up to top-secret SCI level. They were transmitted via personal email, AOL, Gmail, and non-governmental messaging apps with a response from his relatives acknowledging or discussing the content. Individual 1 and Individual 2 in the John Bolton indictment are reportedly his wife and daughter, Gretchen Bolton and Jennifer Bolton, the relatives without security clearances. The wife and daughter acknowledged receipt and commented on the material with exchanges between the two about expecting more. Content shared by Bolton allegedly transcribed notes from intelligence briefings, meetings with U.S. foreign officials, and other activities in the digital diary-like entries. Now, why is this important? Because we know that this is one of the methodologies of actually leaking out classified information. So if you go back to the Microsoft chat logs that Cube turned us on to, What you have back there is you have, Washington Post reporters directly in there with John Brennan and Comey and McCabe, all using various different screen names of how they are going to leak the Steele dossier and put it out to the world. Now you have John Bolton out there leaking classified information, which his server gets hacked by Iran. It seems to me that he probably left it open, that he's putting it out on Gmail and AOL accounts, which are completely unsecure. In other words, he's putting it out there for other people to see. Now, who's his wife and his daughter sharing it with, or how are they sharing it? There's got to be some type of integrated communications network of basically informing other deep state actors of what's going on, who's in play and who's not in play. This goes back to when James Comey came out and he started talking about his Swiftie video. Oh, Taylor, we're all Swifties. We have a family chat of Swift. Well, his family chat just happened to be his son-in-law, DOJ attorney, his daughter, DOJ attorney. The list goes on. That they're all involved in all of this. So Bolton is facing massive crimes. This is he's being charged under the Espionage Act, and rightfully so. Now, will Bolton roll over? You got to remember, a lot of these guys are in their late 70s and 80s. They're going to talk. They're gonna not want to spend the rest of their life in jail, and they'll absolutely start talking. And so I think that once we can get these people actually past indictment to arraignment, where no bail is set, or if we can possibly get them behind bars as fast as humanly possible, we're going to see some heads start to roll. So federal prosecutors actually are moving to disqualify Comey's lead attorney. Federal prosecutors just hit James Comey's legal team with a major challenge, citing a potential conflict of interest involving lead attorney Patrick Fitzgerald. A 2019 DOJ watchdog report found Comey leaked memos, including at least one with classified material, to Fitzgerald himself. Prosecutors now argue that the connection could disqualify him from defense. The Inspector General's report flagged the same timeline as evidence in Comey's current indictment, raising sharp questions about credibility and access to protected materials. It's going to get better. Trust me, it's going to get a lot better. Okay, let me move some things around right here. Okay. Now I'm going to go in. We're going to just pay a quick bill here. I like the Rumble ads. They're really easy. You just go in here, you just speak to Rumble ads, and pretty easy peasy. I thought I had some here. I'll refresh that. They give you this nice little dashboard and stuff that you can use. It's pretty cool. And let's find one here. SUBSTACK. I gotta actually get myself some of these. These are good stuff. All right. Give me 1 second. We'll be right back. All right, there. You should see it coming up right now. This episode is brought to you by SUBSTACK's nicotine-infused toothpicks, a satisfying, discreet, and great-tasting way to curb cravings anytime, anywhere. Perfect for flights, events, restaurants, or anywhere smoking and vaping are banned. SUBSTACK satisfies both nicotine cravings and hand-to-mouth habit with 6 long-lasting flavors in 2 milligram or 3 milligram strengths. Proudly made in the USA and one of the most cost-effective options out there. Not in the nicotine? Try our caffeine or B12-infused picks for a boost. Zip more, smoke less. Visit SUBSTACKtoothpicks.com and get 10% off your first order with code CREATOR. Must be 21 or over. Warning, nicotine is an addictive chemical. And you can see those links popping up on our Rumble, and ZipPix is ZIPPIX, toothpicks.com. All right. Appreciate you guys letting me do that. Get back into the show. So military briefings. We're finding that U.S. naval and special forces are building up off the coast of Venezuela as we speak. Now, is this an indication that something major is going to happen? We've been saying that this was going to happen for a fucking month and a half now. What I'm going to tell you is that what's not being reported publicly is actually happening behind the scenes. We have special forces operations already active within Central and South America, primarily Venezuela and Colombia. This is why their presidents are yelling and screaming so loud. They are annihilating and taking out various different military outposts that house, my thoughts are, fundamental radical Islamic terrorist centers within those countries, as well as human trafficking hubs and drug trafficking hubs. Now, Today, Rand Paul came out and said something very fucking stupid. And I don't understand Rand Paul's logic whatsoever. I mean, I'm sure Rand Paul has, an intelligence person that briefs him on all of these things. I mean, he's got to. But what he says here is absolutely moronic. So I'm going to pull up this video because it deals with Venezuela. And it's almost like he's defending them or the constitutionality of what's being done here. But listen to this.
Number one, there is no fentanyl made in Venezuela. Not just a little bit. There's none being made in Venezuela. These are outboard boats that in order.
Okay, first point. No fentanyl is being made in Venezuela. You're right, Rand. No fentanyl is being made in Venezuela. It's actually being made in China. And what happens is China then distributes that to Canada, Mexico, and Venezuela, Venezuela being one of the primaries. And guess what they do? They mix it in with cocaine shipments and supplementations. They also lace a lot of the cocaine with fentanyl. They actually go in there and they have their lab technicians take the pure grade fentanyl and dull it down and cut it up in different variations in different strengths so they can make more money when it actually hits the streets. So you're right. It's not made there, but it is processed there in other contexts. I mean, how the fuck is it that some podcaster sitting in Minnesota has more intel on what's happening in South America than a sitting senator? It's unbelievable. The next thing that he says is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. But listen.
For them to get to Miami, would have to stop and refuel 20 times. Them to get to Miami would have to stop and refuel 20 times. They're in all likely going to Trinidad and Tobago, which is an island right off of the coast of Venezuela. So there's a lot of reasons to be worried about this. But number one is the broader principle.
Okay, he's talking about go-fast vessels and the submarines. That these go-fast vessels would have to refuel 20 times. Well, guess what, Rand? They do. They do refuel 20 freaking times. Actually, what it is more of a relay. They leave Venezuela in a go-fast vessel. They do 50 knots to the first waypoint. You have a LSV, logistics support vessel, that's sitting there, usually some type of commercial or non-commercial fishing vessel. They refuel them with diesel. They send them on to their next waypoint. That next waypoint, sometimes what they'll do is they'll take a 0.25% of the cocaine that they have on board. They'll distribute to the LSV. They'll take on more gas. They go to the next waypoint. They'll distribute more of the cocaine to the next waypoint, to another speedboat or to another LSV, and then they go to the third waypoint. And then they'll make their way back home. You're right. They don't actually go into the United States of America, but what they're doing is they're distributing cocaine to multiple different waypoints with various different go-fast and LSV vehicles that are now going to make their way to the United States of America. Sometimes they go into Mexico. Sometimes they go into other places in Central America or Tobago or Cuba or wherever it might be. But a lot of the times, they're coming right into America. Now, how does that work? Well, they use the same methodology. Rand, they take those logistics support vessels, those fishing vessels, or even those speedboat vessels that they'll even tow behind the LSV fishing vessels. They'll get to a certain waypoint, maybe 20 or 30 miles off of a meeting point. They'll launch their go-fast vessel with like 2 or 3 tons of cocaine on board. They'll go and find an American commercial fishing liner or a cartel-affiliated fisherman that's licensed in the United States, that's shored up in the United States, that came out to meet them. They're on a week or 2 week long fishing journey. They'll transfer the cocaine into there. They'll throw it under, 2-3 tons worth of fish. And then they'll take it into the United States of America into port, and then the other cartel members come and pick it up there. Does he not know how this fucking works? This is a sitting senator. He has no idea how this stuff works. And he says, blah, blah, Constitution. Rand, it's in the Constitution. The president has the full right and authority to defend the United States of America from all enemies, foreign and domestic. He has laws granted to him by Congress and Senate that allot him the authority to use these exact actions. 2001 authorized use of military force allows President Donald Trump to use that force against known terrorist organizations, which he declared through executive order at the beginning of 2025. This isn't rocket science. But let's listen to what else Rand has to say.
Of when can you kill people indiscriminately? When you're at war. That's why when we declare war, it's supposed to be done by Congress. It's supposed to be thoughtful. It's supposed to be debated. And we're not supposed to do it willy-nilly. And then when you have war, you just kill people in the war zone. And even then there are rules of engagement.
So, I find this really interesting. Rand's making a great point. He goes that, the government is not authorized to use the military to go out there and kill people unless there's a declaration of war. You're right, Rand. Rand, you've been a senator since about 2012. You came in with the Tea Party guys, right? That's 13 years. 2012 time frame, the Afghan war didn't end until about 2017, so that was 5 years. How many times within that 5 years were you prompting Congress to declare war on Afghanistan or Iraq? How many times in the last 25 years have you been very, very vocal about Congress needs a declaration of war before any military action takes place? The thing is this is not logical. Congress has already decided through law, through various different national security decrees, that limited engaged conflict does not need a declaration of war, that it can fit through various legal boundaries known as 2001 AUMF in the aftermath of September 11th, as well as other war powers dictated to the President of the United States, legally bound by constitutional authority. He's the commander-in-chief, and he has that. The Supreme Court has upheld this multiple different times, Rand. I used to love Rand Paul. Love Rand Paul. But he's not being very smart right now. He's being a fucking idiot. That's my thought. Damn you, Rand. I love Ron Paul, and I know Ron Paul would be agreeing with him 100%. It's like Ron Paul called up Rand and like, you got to say something about this. You got to go on to Fox News and say something about this. And Rand's out there just saying it, going through the motions. But at the end of the day, is it right? Is it constitutional gray line? Yes. Is it authorized legally through Congress and through the Senate and through War Powers Act? Yes. Is it morally and ethically right? Absolutely. We're protecting the American people. We're protecting our country. Rand, I don't think really understands that maybe IRGC members, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, ISIS, you have Al-Qaeda, Taliban have all came up. They trained in Venezuela at Isla Margarita in 2011 and 2013. They set up training camps deep inside Central America as well as in Venezuela and Colombia, training cartel members. China has been funding Mexican cartel members. The narco politicians in Mexico are actually paid and funded by China specifically. It was China who funded the planes and the ships to bring over all of the illegal immigrants that came over from Africa, the Middle East, and China into Venezuela. This is one thing that nobody's ever talking about. We always say they came in through the Darien Gap, and they got to the Darien Gap, and then the cartel members grabbed them. The UN was there for support, and they brought them up to the U.S. border and passed them in. You're talking about people from Northern Africa? The Sudan? You're talking about people from Iran? Afghanistan? Yemen? Syria? How the fuck did they get to the Darien Gap in Panama? Well, one thing we know is a lot of those Middle Eastern types were already in Venezuela. They were in Venezuela training as early as 2011 through congressional testimony. We know this. What about the Chinese military-age males? The millions of Chinese illegal immigrants that came over and flooded into the United States of America. How did they get to Venezuela? Someone had to fly them in there or ship and sail them over, and they dropped them off in Venezuela. Who was that? It was fucking China. Not one congressman, not one senator saying shit about that. It was China who funded that. China who brought them in there. China funding the cartels. China behind the whole financing mechanism of the invasion of the United States of America. And this is where things get a little different in the geopolitical situation. A few months ago, I came out and I talked about some intelligence that I actually had received. The intelligence, I put this on my X profile as well as put it out on the show. This was from a military intelligence, active duty military intelligence in Southeast Asia, high-ranking individual who gave me this information that China is in the middle of a soft coup. Let me get some water real quick. That what was happening is that the CCP, the PLA elders, view Xi Jinping as weak against Donald Trump. He humiliated China in front of the world because he did not stand up to Donald Trump with the tariff war. He instead stood down. And during the beginning of the summer, Lin Ji Wong, I think that's his name. I don't even have it in front of me. The second premier, Liu Jingwang, the second premier actually took over power and authorities of Xi Jinping, and Xi Jinping was left in place as a figurehead. Because in China, they got to be very, very careful with the CCP and how they move power around. I mean, Xi was just reelected for life just a year ago. So now what they're doing is if they're going to remove Xi Jinping, they have to do this very, very slowly and over time. They can't just come out and say, Xi Jinping, you made us look bad, you're out, and they pull him out and that's over and done with. Over the last few weeks, we've actually seen a purge of Xi Jinping loyalists within the Chinese military, as well as massive Chinese military buildups within China. So Jennifer Zhen, which has some good information sometimes, Xi Jinping's movements restricted CCP elders to plans, new CMC roster emerges. Xi Jinping has been restricted in his freedom of movement. The CCP elders have two plans to deal with the situation, and now a new Central Military Commission list has been released. This is coming from Chinese insiders inside the PLA, inside the CCP. We even have Miles. Where is it? Hold on. Oh, man. I get my stuff all mixed up sometimes. Miles Guang actually coming out confirming a lot of this with Jennifer Zhen. Now, I don't know the validity of this information. A lot of the things that she's been saying aren't necessarily fully accurate. This is a lot of information coming from the CCP and PLA. It could easily be disinformation. But when I started seeing this and it was aligning with the information intel that I got from U.S. intelligence, from U.S. military intelligence directly in Southeast Asia months ago, I started to believe that this is actually the case. Now, if this is actually the case, this is a big problem because this means that they've taken out one of the head leaders of that sovereign alliance that we talked about. So the current vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, Zhang Zhuoxia, will replace Xi Jinping as chairman of the Central Military Commission. The vice chairman of the National Committee of Chinese People's Political Consultant Conference, Yu Zhongwei, will replace Zhang Zhuoxia to serve as the first vice chairman of the Military Commission. And the list goes on of who they're going to put in placements of various different Xi Jinping loyalists, as well as Xi Jinping's duties and responsibilities. So what you're seeing is Xi Jinping basically is a figurehead in China, but he's been rendered powerless. Now, this is interesting because the same times that this intel was coming out, the U.S. was ramping up its movements into Venezuela with the U.S. military, the U.S. Navy, and moving more troops into that region. Now, we do have a summit coming up where Xi Jinping and Donald Trump are going to meet. I don't think that that's actually going to happen. If that summit where the Xi Jinping and Trump meeting does not happen, you can almost confirm that this is true and accurate. Now, I've heard that Xi Jinping and Trump are set to meet next year. I doubt it's going to happen. I think Xi Jinping is either going to be taken out, have a stroke, or something's going to happen to him in the context of the next few months where he's going to be removed from the game. And if that does happen, it goes back to what Donald Trump said, is that 8 wars have been stopped. The 9th one is coming. This is what's coming up. You go to after the Commandant of the Marine Corps just 2 days ago saying, the next war is going to happen. I promise you, it's coming. Now, does that mean we're going to go to war with China? I hope not. But we're seeing indications of this on the global stage. Iran has canceled the deal with the UN nuclear watchdog after sanctions have returned. Iran just pulled the plug on the deal that let UN inspectors check its nuclear sites. why Western powers brought back the old UN sanctions last month, and Iran warned this would be the result. The UN's Atomic Energy has been trying to rebuild trust after the U.S. and Israeli strikes hit Iranian facilities in June. Iran says now that the deal's dead, but adds will review new proposals. We have Ayatollah Khamenei coming out the other day, basically going off on Donald Trump. I think that this comes about because we're seeing China actually ramp up its oil buying and gas buying from Iran. And Iran is selling it like freaking hotcakes at very cheap prices. And this is fueling the Chinese economy. And this is one of the things that Donald Trump wanted to stop, because that is the lifeblood of the Chinese military. And that if their energy source primarily is Iran, then implementing new sanctions onto Iran restricts a lot of that flow back into China, which now we're seeing reactions from China and Iran. So on the global stage, we have the potentials for World War III to actually break out. Now, do I think it's actually going to happen? I think if it does, I don't think it's going to be what we expect it to be. I think that right now we're seeing more of the information domain of all of this play out. One of the big variables in all of this is Israel. It's Israel. So what happened the other day with Hamas and Israel was absolute nonsense. Israel acted like little kids and tried to just completely restart the whole war again without having all the facts. From what we are getting, the CIA has lied directly to Steve Witkoff, saying that Hamas does not want to do a deal. That's the Mossad intelligence in John Ratcliffe's ear, going directly from Ratcliffe into Steve Witkoff. You have Netanyahu authorizing immediate airstrikes into Rafah right after a bulldozer runs over unexploded Israeli ordnance, which is exactly what we are being told happened now. It wasn't snipers coming out of a long tunnel or any of this bullshit, even though that's what a lot of the IDF is claiming. Trump immediately intervened and said, stop. We're going to move forward. But he came out today and he gave an ultimatum, a warning to Hamas. He said, bro, get your shit together. Let's get this done, because I'm going to give you a timeline. And if you don't, it's not going to be Israel and the IDF that I think he's going to send in there. That's my thoughts. It's not going to be the IDF that he's. Remember, how did he end the Iran conflict? Strategic airstrikes into Iran, 3 nuclear facilities, boom, boom, boom. Trump came out and said today, you don't want to know what we will do. As in, it's going to be the U.S. that goes in and eliminates Hamas. Why? Because it's going to be strategic. It's going to take out their leadership. It's going to absolutely annihilate them. It's going to be fast, quick. It's going to be over. I'm telling you, this is most likely the scenario that we'll see, because Hamas, they're bad dudes. They're a terrorist organization that wants to retain political power. I mean, you have Israel, Netanyahu. Netanyahu is a terrorist organization that wants to retain political power. When these two organizations go head and head together on a holy vengeance, well, fuck, you're never going to get an end to it. It's the same construct that's kind of happening culturally with Russia and Ukraine is happening religiously with Israel and Hamas. Does that make sense? Kind of interesting. There we go. This is actually talking exactly about what I was just saying there on Matt Getz's show. Check this out.
Ryan, what are you learning regarding the impetus for this violence in Rafah? We've got a map here of the site in question, so walk us through your observations.
Yeah, so on Sunday, the IDF reported that there had been an RPG attack right here, if you look at the screen there, at what used to be the Rafah airport. It's still called the Rafah airport. It hasn't operated in some time now. They also said that some snipers had come out, that the IDF was trying to clear a tunnel, and that some fighters may have been hiding out in this tunnel. But what's important for people to understand when they look at this map here is look how far behind enemy lines this Rafah airport is. So you have IDF positions right nearby. You have absolute moonscape rubble as far as the eye can see. And you don't have a tunnel network that connects to the rest of Gaza from there. So there are two possibilities here if the IDF story is accurate. Either some Hamas fighters managed to somehow sneak through this rubble for many kilometers, get behind the enemy lines, and then launch an ambush, or that just days after agreeing to a ceasefire, or they've been hiding out in this tunnel for 8 months at this point because the IDF has controlled this area for roughly.
In other words, Netanyahu lied directly to Donald Trump about what happened, and Donald Trump called out his bullshit and told him to cease immediately. Now, we don't talk about it too much, but I mentioned this a month and a half ago. There's a settlement in southern Ukraine that's all Israeli. It's all Jewish. It was a Ukrainian settlement that has now been taken over in construction, and Israel has gone in there, or Jewish people have gone in there and set their own police force, and they're now ruling over that area. Colonel Towner said this. He said, wasn't the pale of settlement in modern-day Ukraine, isn't what Putin said when he mentioned all the Russian Jewish people moved from that area to Israel? What are the chances that's why there were so many labs in Ukraine? Weren't they testing for Russian ethnicities? Isn't that what we were told? What if it wasn't an attack Russian ethnicities? What if it was what Tucker was suggesting? So we have 72 biolabs in Ukraine. They were testing primarily within the Donbass region. The Donetsk-Donbass region, back pre-World War II, was ethnically a lot of Jewish people, massive amounts of Jewish settlements, various different types of genealogical Jews. A lot of them did go to Israel. A lot of them did migrate throughout the rest of Europe. Tucker Carlson just had a guest on that was saying that various genotypes of Ashkenazi Jews were immune or close to immune of COVID-19. Some of them had extreme symptoms and were targeted, and others had none at all. Now, that's scientifically true. There was a finding in a scientific publication that people of Jewish ancestry, which line they're from, one was more heavily impacted than the other in the context of Ashkenazi Jews. It's exactly what RFK Jr. said a few years ago. What we also know for a fact is now that the virus was lab created, which means they can literally design a bioweapon to target those receptors, which means they have a potential to target certain races. You go into the 23andMe, Ancestry.com data, and you go into the military research, gain of function, you go into the 72 biolabs, and you got to wonder what the hell was really going on in Ukraine, and why is this a bigger cover-up than we could ever imagine, and is this what Russia is really doing? Just a rabbit hole for you to look down and wonder about. Speaking of rabbit holes, I'm going to go over this post later tonight of the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and the rabbit. What this means, what I think it means. This is the Department of Homeland Security post, or the Customs and Border Patrol posting this. Kind of odd. I said, TikTok, follow Alice in the clock, off the wonderland I see, through the rabbit hole of things you'll never believe. A date is near, it comes to be. What will happen? We shall see. My thoughts are October 28th, 2025. That's kind of what I'm heading towards. But we're going to talk about that tonight on DEF CON 0. One other really, really interesting tidbit here. You're going to love this. This is actually pretty nutso. I'm going to show you this one post because I think that it's going to blow your mind a little bit. And it's going to be one of the points of discussion tonight on DEF CON 0. But before I do that, I want to put out a few different things. Number one is, you see that scroll bar right there? That's all of our links, all of our sponsors and affiliates, all of the good stuff that keeps us going, that keeps us going, right? Keeping this show rocking and rolling. If you guys can give those thumbs up, give those likes, give those shares, give those comments, it absolutely helps. If you like that music, those links are below. Our primary websites links are below. Ways to support us are below, and where to follow us are below. So pay attention to that line right there. On Rumble, I had one more Billy to pay. We're going to go ahead and do this real quick. All right. Let's be clear. Cryptocurrency is no longer emerging. It's here. And this latest move cements that reality in the biggest way yet. Trump Media Group just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com, the world's top crypto platform. They are teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi, staking rewards, and real-world perks like cashback on your spends to launch America's first CRO treasury. When it's done, this new company will be the biggest CRO holder out there. Want in on the action? Head to Crypto.com today and grab some CRO. Let's make crypto great again. And that's for everybody out there on Rumble. Appreciate you guys. Now, let's bring up this post because this is absolutely fire. I saw this today and I started decoding it. And I'm like, whoa, this is crazy, right? Started decoding this. I'm like, I can't believe Scavino posted this.
Email chains have been...
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material.
110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information.
I am confident that I never sent nor received any information that was classified.
7 email chains concern matters that were classified at the top secret special access program at the time they were sent and received.
I had not sent classified material nor...
Okay, obviously about Hillary Clinton. Dan Scavino posting this. I thought it was today, so I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is October 10th, 2016, people. Why is that interesting? The video is 1 minute and 20 seconds long. This was posted October 10th, 2016, a year and 18 days before Q ever posted. Okay? Timestamp on this one that's my timestamp. Timestamp on this one is 8:54. Okay. Now, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to show you 2 different posts. Remember, this is about Hillary Clinton. What are the odds that a 2016 post, 120, right up here, 120, we can actually do this, hashtag, deal with Hillary Clinton. So, was HRC connected? Why is this relevant? Why is it controlling the narrative important? Do most people investigate for themselves or simply follow? Why is the MSM hostile towards POTUS? But it gets better because this actually goes in. Why is it Admiral Rogers? Who wanted him fired? Why was Admiral Rogers replaced by POTUS when taking office? Why is this relevant? So this is actually Comey, Clinton, Tarmac, all of this. Fantasyland is Hillary Clinton. I find that incredibly interesting. So that's 120 timestamp. The other one was 8:54, I think. Yeah, I think it's 8:54. Yep, there it is. Is the stage set for the HRC triple plus 5+ drop? That's 5:55 raw video. We have it all. The nail in many coffins. What are the fucking odds that a 2016 Dan Scavino post correlates to 2 Q-board posts that deal with Hillary Clinton, talking one about her emails, one about the stuff that was inside of her emails, on the correlative Q boards year before it ever happened? What does that tell me? Operational integrity and operational dry runs, that they were testing this out before it actually happened in the context of, hey, let's go out and run some tests out there. Let's put these board posts up. We know how it all flows out. Let's go out there and test it. And this was what that was about. Pretty cool. We're going to talk about more of that on DEF CON 0 tonight. I got to go. I got to go out and get ready for all of this next show. I hope you guys have a great night. You guys are an amazing audience. I appreciate everything you're doing. I lost my train of thought. I lost my next video that I was going to bring up. And you know the video. It's just another song that we're going to play on the way out. The links are below, guys. Thank you for all support. You guys are absolutely amazing. I will see most of you guys in about 15 minutes on DEF CON 0. Much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. We'll see you next time.
a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns to silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Through the smoke, a voice still calls. We the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil under. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time when truth was clear, when the media served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see. The silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a life's prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free. There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time, there was a time. Now is the time. Do it, Q.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"